Okay. Recording. Admit. Hey, T. Daniel Hofstedt. Oh wait. Oh.
How you doing?
Good. See my show. Eat, sleep, compute.
Great. I've got my my classic American Tail jacket that I got at the end of and my American Tail hat. So I thought,
Okay.
that would be appropriate.
All right. Hang on. There might be a couple of. I'm just waiting for two more people to come in. One is gonna be like, here's one now. Here's my friend Sarah Eliza, otherwise known as Sarah Hout.
I see a caricature of you on the wall.
Yeah, exactly. No. That was a person at Home Depot that did that. Hello, Sarah.
Hi.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you. Nice filter.
Nice seeing you.
I'm just. Julia's gonna be like on here at 8:03. So I mean, the last time me and Sarah talked, it was like November the 1st. So we were trying to get Halloween done, and then we were kind of just handling out wedding stuff. I went to a wedding on November the 13th. Sarah went to a wedding around the same.
Julia was my plus one for a special wedding reception. My sister Bonnie was doing. She had just got married a year before.
Oh,
and we still like plenty of cake around the house.
and the Braves won the World Series, so that's something for my town to be glad about. The Braves win the World Series.
Well, I'm glad the Braves beat the Astros because as a Dodger fan, we did not want to see the Astros win again. So congratulations to the Braves for beating those cheaters.
Yeah, exactly. Huh, right. Probably in the same ballpark as you. Hang on, let's it's about 1 minute or so out, and she's gonna be in. Hang on, let's see. This caricature, like that one, right behind me.
Yeah.
That I used to work for the Home Depot. Then I went over to one of their little outdoor events. This was back in 2019, and then I ended up getting a character. Actually, I think it was 2018, 2019. Yeah, definitely. It was kind of a family event for employees to take their kids just to have fun on the Home Depot parking lot, and so I got this caricature of myself drawn, and the previous one that I got a caricature of myself, I ended up losing, but this one I kept. So that's something to be glad about. And
Cool.
Here's gotta be okay. Everyone's now gonna be here. Hello, Julia.
Hello.
Hi, Julia.
All right.
Hello.
All right.
Hi there.
All right.
Nice to meet you.
Julia.
Cake from the wedding reception party.
Yeah, exactly. Julia, Sarah, meet T. Daniel Hofstedt. He was a character animator on the 1986 Steven Spielberg produced animated feature An American Tail.
Wow. I had no idea that you were going to be here. That's great.
Well,
how exciting.
Thanks for inviting me and thanks for having me. I just finished a work day. I do actually have another call at about 5:45, so I'll be able to spend a little time with you and talk about whatever you want to talk about as far as animation or American Tail and some of my memories of that. I think it's cool that you guys are remembering that film. I'm guessing that most of you weren't even born when that was made.
Exactly.
True.
Yeah. Well.
But no, it was a really great experience, and I met a lot of very talented people, and I'm still friends with many of them over the years, and it was a great experience to go through.
Well, definitely I could get started on the first question. How did an absolute visionary like Steven Spielberg suddenly get interested in animation?
All right, that big question.
Well,
True.
I don't know if it was suddenly. I think he always liked animation. I mean, from what I can gather, he was interested in, he loved the old Looney Tunes, Warner Brothers shorts. He became good friends with Chuck Jones, who was the famous Warner Brothers director from those shorts. Um, so I don't think it was sudden. I think he was always interested in animation. But maybe it might have seemed sudden that he started to create it, so that part of it might have been sudden, but I think he always loved it. And after some of his success, and uh, he could pick and choose what he wanted to do. He was no longer just down on the bottom rung. Now he was at the top rung. He could do what he wanted to do, and I believe he always wanted to do something with animation. And so when the time came, he made it happen. So that's my opinion. I've never read an article or talked to him about that, but from what I can gather, uh, he was always interested in animation.
Well, I think the reason why he didn't direct was because he was taking more of a producer role, and people were starting to come to him for projects. So you got Joe Dante directing Gremlins over here. You got Richard Donner directing Goonies over here. You got Bob Zemeckis directing Back to the Future over here, and then you got Steven Spielberg's Amazing Stories anthology show with one of the episodes, Family Dog, directed by one Brad Bird.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's kind of why he couldn't direct American Tail. But how did Steven Spielberg discover Don Bluth?
Well, I'm not exactly sure of the details on that, except that uh, Don had Don Bluth had his success with Secret of Nim, at least an artistic success, and he had a pretty good reputation in the animation world at that time, as someone who was trying to do the classical style, which, in his opinion and many others' opinions, um, Disney had sort of set aside, or was losing or slipping, or however you want to describe it. At the time, Don left and broke away and decided to do first Banjo the Woodpile Cat, and then they did Secret of Nim. And I think the rest of the industry noticed, and again, I don't know exactly how Don Bluth and Steven Spielberg came together, but uh, you very rightly mentioned many other directors who were working under Steven Spielberg's. Um,
Amblin Entertainment Company.
right. Yes. So he was very influential and had a lot of fingers in a lot of different projects. So it's not surprising to me that somehow he said, "Hey, I want to do animation, and this Bluth guy has done some really cool stuff, and maybe we can do something together." Now, as far as the details go, I'm sure there's other articles out there and other people that were, behind the scenes further than me on those levels that might have the answer. But to me, it's not surprising that Don Bluth might have been on Steven Spielberg's radar, um, and it was great timing because they they agreed to do 3 pictures, but they only ended up doing 2. They did American Tail and Land Before Time together.
Yeah.
But then the 3rd picture was dropped and was never even started. So they said, okay, we're just doing 2, and then we're out.
I didn't know that there were originally going to be 3, but that's okay. I mean, we
Getting
do
good
have
insight.
we do definitely have what we have. So,
Mhm.
like the Disney animators that were kicked out of the animation building, were you not given the royal treatment and made this film in some junky office building in L.A. or Ireland?
Okay, I'm not sure I'm understanding being kicked out of the building. What
The Disney animators around when the live action business was booming with Disney, they kind of ended up using the animation building as separate space, and they put the animators into some other building, this junky office building in Glendale.
Yeah,
Oh,
in other
right.
words, and if art industry strong.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that was not for Bluth, but yeah, I did work at Disney later, and when I started, they had already gotten so-called kicked out from the main lot at Burbank, and they were in small little buildings around Glendale, and that was actually my first location in my 16-year career at Disney was in the small Glendale buildings. But within about 4 years, they built what they call the Hat Building, you know, the new animation building, which they put us in. I think it was 1995 or 1996, and yeah, so it was only a few years in those buildings. But you know, as far as Bluth goes, yeah, we moved to Ireland at the end of American Tail, and then finished Land Before Time over in Ireland, and
That's awesome.
it was nice.
Okay, so one thing I like about this in this film is how it's not afraid to show a raw, dirty, smog-ridden, and unsanitary New York, even in a kids' film. Was that Spielberg's idea or Bluth's idea? I mean, did you ever notice that? Like, New York does not look clean or anything. Like it's not perfect.
Oh yeah, I think it was a very gritty kind of feeling. I mean, if you look at any old movies from that time period, you know, the old silent black and whites, and you see the people walking in the streets and the horse-drawn carts, and you know the steam coming out of the stacks. You know, I don't think it's a surprise. Now, I can't answer on whose idea it was, whether it was Bluth's or Spielberg's, but um, it was a team effort to kind of bring that, where you have the art director and the background painters and, you know, the designers to kind of come up with that. And, you know, I'm sure it was a team effort, that they wanted to get down to the cobblestones, you know, down in the mud, down, because it was kind of a muddy, gritty, dirty place at that time in the early 20th century. And
Well, actually, it was 1886.
yeah,
This was 1986, 100 years after the Statue of Liberty was built. So it's like, yes, that's that exactly. It's like, yes, I mean, good thing I managed to figure out a way to clean up New York in like the 135 years since 1886. So and they've got to clean up even more. New mayor, new governor, that sort of thing. Other crazy people. Yeah, just gonna clean up the town, literally. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. No, and you're absolutely right. I did have my dates wrong, but thank you with your history there. That's exactly right. And it is interesting. You reminded me, and I had forgotten that it was, you know, 100 years, you know, from the Statue of Liberty to the to the
Release of the film.
The
I'm
release of the film in
Yeah.
1986. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. You rightly pointed that out. So good research.
Thank you.
But as far as whose ideas it was, I couldn't really answer that. But you know, Don Bluth was a very talented, or is he's still around.
yeah, I know
he's
he
a very
is.
he's a very talented a designer, artist, a very talented visual stylist, and I'm sure he had a lot to do with that. Now, you know, whether Spielberg came along and said, "Hey, be sure to make the street dirty," okay. So I'm not sure where that started, but it was very effective because you definitely feel the atmosphere there.
Yeah.
What was
So.
your favorite thing that you worked on American Tail? Like your favorite piece that you worked on?
Well, I'd have to say there's kind of a two-part answer to that. Okay, I was hired at the start to be John Pomeroy's assistant. Now, John Pomeroy was one of their producers, and he was their kind of chief animator. He was their top animator, and got a lot of the juicy acting scenes. And so I was hired as his assistant, which was a great honor because I learned a lot. And I, up to that point, had only worked, after graduating from Cal Arts, I'd only worked on the Smurfs TV show and then at a special effects company. And so I really didn't have the experience of doing a feature film yet, even though that was my aspiration. I wanted to work on feature films, whether it was Disney or Bluth. I wanted to do that kind of old classical style. So I was given that opportunity to be his assistant, and he said, "Well, I told him I want to be an animator." And I said, "Well, if you can keep up with me and do my assistant work, you can do animation on the side. As long as you keep up with my workflow." And I said, "Great." So I was able to do that, and I earned my my animation credit, which was 100 feet of animation, and a foot was is measured in 16 millimeter film. 35 millimeter film, where it's a foot of film was about 16 frames. So it's 2/3
No,
of
they
a second.
measured it like that.
Yeah.
Maybe
So when you say, that's a 10-foot scene, well, that means there's, 10 feet of film is kind of the old measuring. Of course, they don't use film anymore, but they still talk about it in that way. What's the footage on that shot? So anyway, getting back to your question, so my favorite part of being John's assistant, there was a section where he had Fievel saying, I'm looking for my hat. And then he kind of throws it on purpose. And it was just a cute little personality thing he had done. And I assisted him, and he left a few things for me to finish. And, that was kind of a, sort of a...
Coming into your own.
Yeah, I got to help him on that, and seeing his drawings. His drawings were amazing. Very, very careful. He drew really slow, but it was precise. He knew exactly his hand moved slow, I should say. It wasn't that he drew slow. It was like he was just very efficient. He would just go like this. A lot of people are doing this, sketchy, fast moving hands, but he's just like, he just puts the pencil right where he wants it. So that was kind of a breakthrough for me. But then my favorite that I animated on, that was my own, if you remember the Mouse of Minsk, that kind of mechanical monster thing.
The Mecha Mouse. Mouse. Like Mecha Godzilla.
So there's these little soldier mice that are kind of like driving it, and they're setting off fireworks. And there's about 4, maybe 5 shots where these soldier mice are in the shots. And they don't talk. They're not even, that's the only place you'll ever see them. But they gave me that section. It says, okay, you're going to do the soldier mice. And so I was able to do the little soldier mice. And that was the first time I had my own little thing to do, you know.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I actually went and I shot video reference. Me and another animator were, you know, pretending to grab, you know, they were doing matchsticks in the, you know, like the matchsticks are
Right.
huge, like torches. So we would get like some kind of
They
like
were
a
live
tube.
acting playing.
Yeah, so we would get a tube and kind of toss it to each other and grab it and pretend to light and pretend to kind of shield ourselves from the
Awesome.
explosion. And so we would look at that, or I would look at that reference just to, you know, help
Like body
inform
position.
me. Yeah. And so that was my favorite part of working, because it was sort of a breakthrough that, number one, they trusted me to do something. And number two, I was able to do it and have fun with it and treated it like it was special. Like it wasn't just, oh, this is just what beginning animators do and we'll give them something that nobody wants to do. No, I treated that as if it was the most important shot in the movie, and which was a great lesson to me later. I mean, I've told this to students and younger animators, because sometimes younger animators will get a shot and it goes, yeah, but I would really like to try a close-up, you know, and do some really serious acting, you know, instead of these kind of background characters that they think nobody's going to pay attention to. You know, I'd always tell them that there are no small scenes, there are only small animators. And that's actually a quote from Gary Goldman, who was one of the other producers on the show. And I really believe that you know, whatever shot you're given, you should make it as if it's the most important shot in the movie, because the movie is like a chain, you know, and if one link in the chain is broken, you might take the audience out of it. The audience might go, oh wait, I was into it until that weird thing happened and it looked wrong, and now I don't believe it anymore. So they can kind of kick the audience out of the movie if you do a bad shot. So
No, I love that. I think that's applicable to other things in life too.
Yeah,
Like
software
what you're doing.
development. What I'm doing as a career myself. Well, another question. Were you afraid of working on something that many in the press were dubbing box office poison or kiddie fair without realizing you were planting a seed for the Disney Renaissance and possibly the birth of Pixar?
Whoa,
wow,
the big one.
that's a heavy question. So now, so back then, you know, box office poison, I take that to mean that animation wasn't making any money in those days, and people were reluctant to put money into it because it just wasn't proven to, you know, make that much money anymore. And it was sort of at the beginning of these huge blockbuster things. You know, Star Wars had already been out, and then you had, you know, Close Encounters and other great big huge tentpole movies. So so I would say I couldn't answer for everybody, but what I perceive, you know, looking back, is that my generation, guys like me that I went to school with and have worked with, we all grew up on that Disney stuff and the Warner Brothers shorts, and we just loved animation, and we got this desire that, oh, that'd be cool to work on that someday. And I don't think we calculated it as a business thing. We didn't say, hey, I think there's going to be a lot of money in this. We just thought, hey, that looks fun. And, you know, we had our talent and we had our desire. And when the time came, I thought, hey, I really want to do that. I'm sure I wasn't thinking of, you know, hey, this is going to be a great career. It's just something that I really had a desire to do. Now, at the time I became of age, you know, to go to Cal Arts, there was kind of movement there. So this was 1981 when I started at Cal Arts. So Secret of NIMH had already been out. And so it's kind of it's kind of like, oh, things are starting to happen just as I was already in school. You know, I didn't see Secret of Nim and go, oh boy, I think I'll be an animator. It was like I wanted to be an animator when I was a kid, like 3rd grade, you know. So here it was, I'm doing it, and it just so happened that you know, Secret of Nim was starting, and then the void that was left at Disney by a lot of their top artists from Bluth leaving gave the younger guys an opportunity to rise up, and then that started to kind of grow and mature. And so there was definitely, you know, I gotta get both hands in the camera here, you know, kind of a mutual growth where, you know, Bluth and his team was growing, and now Disney and their team was growing. So there was stuff now happening. There was
Balance other.
yeah, it was a challenge, and you had stuff happening and people noticing it, and of course, as you mentioned earlier, Spielberg was paying attention, and so now there's stuff going on, and people are going, hey, you know what, that might be something to do. And of course, you had behind the scenes at Disney, you had Roy Disney trying to save the studio and save the legacy, and you know, there's a lot of stuff kind of brewing under the surface that was sort of swelling. It's almost like a volcano, you know, that there's stuff under the surface kind of growing, and pretty soon, you know, this explosion of stuff. Now, American Tail, I think, was right. I mean, it was bubbling. It was starting, and then it came out and it did great. You know, it broke
Box office records. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it put it on the map, and that made people go, ooh, wow, check this out. And of course, that woke Disney up more. And
yeah, they said y'all need to do better at animation storytelling, so they were like, okay, we're gonna make a string of blockbusters. So that out came Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lion King. It was just like the stuff that my generation knows as the classics, you know.
Right.
So
I think Animator Tale is definitely included in there in our childhood classics, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So how did you manage to double check your animation in analog tape-based tests without digital test assistance before sending it to the ink and paint department?
Well, when I first started on American Tail, they had an old Lion Lamb, that's LYON LAMB. That was the brand of this reel-to-reel tape. So it was like I think it was about 3/4 inch, or maybe it was a 1 inch wide tape, and it was a spool, you know, like 2 spools, reel to reel, and it was designed so you could do a single frame or you could do 2 frames, and it would stop, it run back, and then it would just shoot on that one little section of the tape. But you had this one long tape, and then so everybody had to share that tape, and they had a little counter, you know, that would kind of count the revolutions, and you would make note. You said, okay, my shot was at 0118, you know, through like 0132 or whatever, and so you would make sure that the next person didn't go over it, and that was very, very clunky at first. So it was kind of a, because inevitably somebody might go over it and accidentally tape over it, or maybe you shot in the morning and now you didn't have a chance to show the director until later in the day. Now you got to go back and someone else is using the machine, and you're going, okay, wait until they're done, and then you got to rewind it and find your thing. So that was kind of clunky, but very shortly into that production, I'm sorry?
Like about sweat boxing pressures.
Yeah, exactly. So right around the beginning of that, a few months into it, they came out with the VHS version of that, where you could take your own VHS tape and put it in, and then now you have your own little thing to carry around, and then swap it into the machine. So you don't have to worry about taping over someone else's. You just have to worry about taping over your own. but as far as that goes, you know, when we didn't do like group sweat boxes so much on American Tail, it was more we'd have certain times of the day where Don or John or both were available, or one of the sequence directors like Dan Kenster or Linda Miller. They would, you know, certain times of day when they would be available, and so we'd kind of, okay, sign up. You'd let the assistant director know that you had something to show, and then you'd show up at that time, and then Don would kind of look at everybody's stuff, and you know, a few people are kind of standing around watching and listening and waiting their turn and stuff. But it wasn't in a room like, you know, you see in the Frank and Ollie book, The Illusion of Life. It wasn't like a little dark theater where everybody's watching everything together. It wasn't really designed like that.
It's interesting.
Now later, you know, I mean, not during American Tail, but later, like in the early 90s at Disney, they started to get a network where people had, they had little Macintoshes, and they had a little down shooter, and they had a pencil test program. I forget the name of it, but they kind of modified it. Somebody in Finland or something had invented this thing, and one of our animators who had some programming skills, a guy named Randy Cartwright, adapted his idea, and that became our pencil test system. And so we were shooting our pencil tests on, I think it was at the beginning of Lion King. We were shooting our pencil tests on this little, it was just that little single unit box of the Macintosh, you know, self-contained. It's a screen and a little rectangle, and you had a little drive slot that you could put your floppy disk in. Anyway, so we would shoot our pencil test, and it would be saved, and then we could take our disk drive, and they got these little zip drives that they attached to it, and then we would take that zip drive and go to the director's office and pop it in his machine, and then we would see his or he would see our animation. So I mean, just in a few years, it progressed from everyone sharing the old reel-to-reel to a VHS to a zip drive, and you know, and then of course it advanced beyond that, where people would be more connected, and you could just, you know, send a link on the server to the director's assistant, and then they would call it up, and you'd go to their office, and there it was, you know, or they might have a sweat box where everybody could look at it together in that room.
Oh, okay, yeah. So,
Jordan,
yeah.
should we
Say what?
question?
Well,
See if
Sorry?
Sarah any question?
well, sure. Why did the Titanic composer James Horner score this film instead of John Williams, Spielberg's go-to music maestro?
Wow, that's an answer I couldn't give you. Although, you know, I think James Horner is a very, very brilliant.
Was a very
Yes, he was, and sadly he died in a plane crash. But
yeah.
I couldn't answer that. Why this guy and not that guy? You know, maybe it's a matter of scheduling. Maybe John Williams was busy, or you know, maybe they had other ideas, or maybe it was a budget. You know, John Williams might have been twice as expensive. Who knows? I couldn't answer that.
I don't know. Yeah,
that's worth some research. But I will say that I had the privilege of meeting James Horner during the scoring session of they had it at Abbey Road Studios in London, and they said, you know, people who want to come to London for that weekend, and they had like a sign-up sheet where 4 people at a time could sit in the booth, you know, and just sit back and listen. And you know, so I decided to take that long weekend and go to London and go to Abbey Road Studios and got my picture taken in the sidewalk where the Beatles walk and all of that.
Oh yeah.
And then met James Horner, and he was the nicest guy. And I learned a lot from watching how he worked. He was in the booth for part of the time. He was down on the floor with the musicians for most of the time, but he came up to listen back to what they had done. And he was very even-tempered, soft-spoken, said please and thank you. You know, even if there was a mistake, he would say, oh, can we go back to measure 137? Thank you. Yes, on this section, we need the oboes to come in like one frame or one beat sooner, and you know, or he said it in the nicest way. You know, instead of what's this clown doing? You know, I mean, he was so professional and even keeled and kind, and you know, it was just like wow. I mean, that's a professional right there. Just watching him work in such a kind and even-tempered way was a great lesson.
Yeah, because you know about James Horner composing Titanic and that Celine Dion song and stuff like that. I think some of that experience resonating from this film might have played into James Cameron's big top grossing moneymaker in at the box office that won 11 Oscars. So that's like that's something to be encouraging because that Titanic movie too also deal with immigration. So that's something to at least nice to know. So.
Mm-hmm.
So even as animation has gotten so sophisticated over the 35 years since this film's release, there are still those who think animation is just a kid's thing. How do animation pros respond to that? Show them some incredible shorts from diverse filmmakers? Or in your case, tell them you worked in animation during the time when studio execs, well, it's only now suddenly realizing that people were starting to notice, so that's why Spielberg did American Tail. But then again, it was just starting to bubble up in the interest for animation. So maybe that's supposed to be something that could be encouraging. But what do you do with people who think that animation is just a kid's thing or something like that? I mean, what do you do?
Well, I don't think that's a new um, question or a new phenomenon, because that kind of question was happening all the way back to my Cal Arts days, where you know people would say, "Oh yeah, we don't want to do kid stuff. We want to do something, you know, something daring and interesting and or whatever that means." So you know, my feeling is that, you know, and I don't remember the exact quote, but Walt Disney said something like that he makes films for the children in all of us, you know, for the child within us, and that, you know, to make something that's classic, to make something that will last, that will stand the test of time, um, means that you don't just do something just to be uh, edgy or whatever. You know, you do something that has heart and truth and and emotion and personality and you know, that touches the spirit of the viewer in a way that makes them go, yeah, I feel that, I felt that way, I understand that there's something that connects. Now, you know, I know that animation is on a lot of spectrums, and there is a lot of really super, I would say, infantile, you know, types of animation that's done that is really, really geared to the youngest of the young, and it's just okay. Well, that's fine. You know, the colors are moving, and you know, but it's not what I would call animation in the classical sense, and I feel like animation in the classical sense. And when I say classical, I don't mean old. I mean things that will never go out of style, that stand the test of time, you know. And that, when I think of those kind of things, it doesn't have anything to do with whether they're cute little rainbow ponies dancing around, you know, or whatever, you know, that it's, you know, it's not just for little tiny kids, you know, and dancing around on clouds or whatever, you know, and I, and by saying that, my granddaughter, who's 4 years old, she loves My Little Pony, and that's great. You know, it's cute, it's fine, but I wouldn't call it classic. You know, I wouldn't say it's going to stand the test of time. It's like, oh, just another thing in that genre. And I think, you know, Don Bluth, I think, was aspiring to do the classic tale with American Tail. That movie had heart, and it was daring in a way. It was dealing with a subject matter that was not for kids, but yet kids could watch it and get something out of it. And parents could watch it and become engaged, like, oh, wow, what's going to happen? This is dramatic. This is interesting. This is funny. So, you know, I feel like we should aim high and look and try to make it like Walt Disney had said, you know, it's for the child within us, rather than saying, well, this is going to be adult style animation, and, you know, we're just going to go the opposite. And personally, I don't, you know, really care for that. I would rather do something for children of all ages, is basically what I would say. Whether
Yeah.
you're 9 or 90, you know, everybody
kids
can
from 1 to
enjoy it.
92. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, with all these streamers coming out, with all these streaming services, I mean, there's a big window. There's an open door. I mean, HBO Max has like a program for underrepresented voices to make animated shorts. Disney has the same thing. Pixar has one. I think Sony has a program something similar to that, but I'm not particularly sure. But it's perpetuating in many different places. I'm pretty sure Netflix has a similar program. I'm not sure, but with these various streamers coming out with original content of their own, then it's like this is the Wild West right here. This is a grand opportunity for great storytellers to at least get those stories told. And yeah. I mean, oddly enough, I'm a fan of My Little Pony. I'm a brony, yes, I am. And then there's also but I am not. I'm not like.
Get to the point of that question.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of adult animation. I mean, neither is Sarah, neither is Julia. We kind of have a limit at this club. Nothing higher than like a PG-13. That's kind of what we're doing here. Nothing higher than PG-13.
Well, that's great, and I really appreciate your interest in animation and American Tail, especially on this 35th anniversary. I think it's amazing that it's still alive. I'm also mostly amazed at how much time has flown by. You know, my kids were very small. In fact, my daughter, one daughter was only 1, and then the other daughter was only 3 when this came out. And now they're grown and have their own kids, and every once in a while, like if I've got 4 of my grandkids near us. 1 lives with me, and 3 live about 10 minutes away. And if I'm called upon to watch them or whatever, we'll have what they call Camp Off Film Festival. So we'll get to pick a movie that I worked on and watch it.
Oh, how fun!
Great.
Awesome. Well, I get something similar because Jordan and Sarah are both very talented animators as well, and they work on things together.
Well,
so sometimes I get to see little clips that they've worked on, which is really awesome. And it's awesome that they get to hear from cool mentors like you that can inspire us. And we only have about 1 minute left, guys. So if there's any last final thoughts or questions, we don't want to
I
keep
do have a question for him. I mean,
Sure.
yeah, last year we were watching a sequel to American Talent, and Julia didn't get the whole concept of the whole cat themes for these films. Yeah, can you explain about the meaning of cats?
Oh, for the sequels?
Just for like American Talent in general.
Oh, well, from what I understand, I can't really speak to the sequels because I didn't work on them, but for the original one, the idea that that there are no cats in America. Before they reached America, the whole song is like, they're suffering, they're being chased out by the what do they call them? The Cossacks. And the kind of evil cats are chasing away the mice, and they're burning their homes, and they sing the song on the ship, there are no cats in America. and so it's that like, hey, we're going to reach the promised land, it's the land of milk and honey. And then when they get there, they find out, whoa, wait a minute, they have cats here too. And so that was I think it's kind of an allegory. It's just sort of a good guy, bad guy kind of thing. The mice are the good guys, the cats are the bad guys. And of course, cats want to eat mice, and so there's that danger there. And being kind of disappointed that, wait, we came all this way, and it's bad here too. And how do they kind of deal with that? And so it's a great storytelling
The
device.
fact that the American mice were able to like deal with the cats was something that we're unable to do with the previous countries that are living in. Yeah, I think to me, like the cats seem to like symbolize like the kind of oppressions that's like more of like brute strength or even military might.
Right.
This was the Gilded Age.
Well, I gotta jump on to this other meeting that's about to start. So
Okay.
I want to thank you guys for your interest and your questions.
Thank you for joining us.
All right.
Great to talk to you. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Good luck. Bye-bye.
Next one. Okay, hang on. Bye. Wait.
Oh man.